Hello and welcome back to Today We Review, and today we're going to be doing a little bit something-ish differently than we usually do. Instead of reviewing an item today, we're going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing a small mini series in regards and in response to the current situation we're in. This is something that I was supposed to do back in March when things started happening. So this mini series would be basically regarding the current situation of the COVID, and the basis of it is reviewing recipes that are easy to make at home without that many ingredients and things that are simple enough that anybody can do. So today's video we're going to be looking at how to make easy homemade bread. And I'll be showing you the steps. I'll be giving you some tips. I've done this bread already about 3 to 4 times, so I already kind of know exactly what to do and what not to do. So I'll also provide you with that insight as well. If it's the first time you're viewing this video, or you're coming into the channel for the first time, hey, welcome, and take a seat back and enjoy the video. If you're a current subscriber and you're watching this video again, or you're watching this video for the first time, go ahead and sit back as well and enjoy the video. So just to give you guys a little heads up as well, I'll be trying to make a couple of videos for this mini series as well, in regards to my own personal experience and what people were have insight told me as well. And this mini series was also suggested to me by user Fern, and I am so sorry. I'll put it in the comment section or in the description. Fern something. So let's get started. So at the beginning right now, what we're going to do is we're going to prepare all the actual ingredients. And if you want, you can actually skip over to when I already have all the stuff into it. But right now, I'm going to show you how to pour in and everything as well. So to start off with, we're going to go ahead and put in 5 1/2 cups of flour. So I have my all-purpose flour here, and here's one thing that I am going to mention is that when you're doing your flour, always use, I use actually the back side of a butter knife or something that's dual, and then I just slightly push everything out. That way I have, oops, and you're going to make a mess, so don't worry about it. You're going to go ahead and pour that into your bowl. In this case, I'm actually using a large bowl because I'm going to use the same one to mix all my ingredients. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention, or I forgot to mention as well before starting, was that whatever counter you're going to be using, make sure to disinfect it first, wipe it clean, just because you don't want to have any kind of germs or anything on your counter, and then you're going to be using your flour making skills onto it. And like I said, you're going to be making a mess. Don't worry about it. That's what the kitchen's for. A mess shows that you did a good job. Of course, that could be counteracted with some people saying like, well, no, kitchen that has no mess means that you did a great job. But it doesn't matter. You're having fun. That's the important part. You're having fun. All right, so this video, I would also recommend if you have children or you're a grandma, grandpa, and you're going to be bringing kids over, this is a great video. A great time to have the kids come over and be able to enjoy some time with them. All right, and there's my 5th cup and my 1/4. I'm going to be using this one in particular. So, just to let you guys know, ladies and gentlemen, know that these actual things were given to me by my mother, and my wife originally didn't want them because when I first got them, they were actually in a storage room in the very back, and they were left there for years, so they were pretty rusted-ish and mistreated, and after a quick clean, my wife loved them. So this is what we're using today. So I'm going to leave the 1/2 cup extra on the side for the meantime. One of the next things that we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put our 1/4 of sugar. Now the ingredients, differ depending on what you want to touch in. And just to let you know, the actual instructions that I'm getting from were actually from Just a Pinch, and they were found also in Yumly. I'll be putting in the actual link at the bottom as well, so no need to worry about that. So right now we're going to be putting 1/4 of sugar. Oops, and I'm going to be pouring my 1/4. Now the 1/4, you could also, I'm going to have to use a bit more sugar. I thought I had more than enough. And it's always good to make sure that this is actually sugar. So let me just double check. Yes, it is. The reason I'm saying this is because once I thought it was sugar and it turned out to be salt, so it wasn't a very appealing dish that I made. So we're going to put the 1/4 sugar in there. Let's set this on the side. Oops. Okay, and the next thing that the instructions indicate is half a tablespoon of salt. Now, you can actually change a couple of things here. I already experimented with using half a tablespoon. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Half a tablespoon of salt. However, what I'm going to be using today is going to be this. This is a secret ingredient. Now, if you're looking at this and you're thinking, hey, that looks like, that looks like crack cocaine, that looks like PCP or methamphetamine. Well, you're absolutely right. But the street name out of this is actually MSG. So we're going to be using a couple of MSGs section into this. So we're just going to be putting half a tablespoon of MSG. Of course, like I mentioned, you can always use salt. I am only going with MSG because I like the flavor it gives. It's a little sweeter, just a tiny bit, and it enhances the flavor of the bread. Okay, so next we're going to be using the yeast. Now, here's something that I did learn with the yeast. You can actually go to the store and you can actually purchase these packages. Usually it's about three of these for $1. However, I decided to go with the actual pack itself because it turns out to be cheaper for what I end up doing. However, what I did find out is that the instructions actually say 1 tablespoon and a half tablespoon of yeast. But since this one's basically comes in 3, so it gives you 3 different packages, you can actually use 2.5, and that actually equals to the actual amount. But today we're going to be using this one, Baker's Choice. Not necessarily, saying that you should go with this one. It's just that I found that this was much better for the price. I believe it was like maybe $4 or something. I couldn't find them at Walmart. I found it at my local HEB store, so you might want to look at some different places. But these, I know they have them at Walmart. So we're going to be using this, and let me just go ahead and use 1 tablespoon and a half. So we're going to be using 1 whole tablespoon. And this part usually tends to be the most messy of them all because it is messy. So this right here, we're not going to actually mix it into it. Just to let you know, we're going to be putting it inside of a bowl, because we're going to be putting this one on a separate section. So we're going to be putting 1 tablespoon and a half. So I'm going to get my other half, and we're going to go ahead and put it in. Okay, so the next step we're going to be using is 3 tablespoons of either vegetable oil or canola oil. So in this case, we're going to be using canola oil because that's currently what we have right now. So we're going to be putting this in really quick. So that's 1. 2, and oh, there we go. Come on, little. And whoa, 3. There we go. Just exactly the amount. Okay, perfect. So let me put this on the side. And the last part actually mentions to have 2 cups of water. It states hot, but in this case we're going to be using warm water because that's what I found out works a bit best. This warm water is actually going to be used for the yeast. We're going to combine the yeast inside the warm water so that it can activate. However, what we're going to do is we're simply going to just be putting this inside of our microwave. And I honestly say that maybe, depending on how your microwave is, between 30 to 45 seconds. That should do it. So we'll go ahead and put 45 seconds in this one. Okay, so my water is done. Like I said, it depends on your microwave because this one it did 45 seconds and it came out relatively a bit hotter than warm than I expected. But I mean, as long as it's enough where you can actually dip your finger in and it's not extremely hot, you're fine. Remember, wash your hands before and after you start doing these things. And what we're going to do is we're going to be putting our yeast inside. So we're going to go ahead and lightly drop it. And as this begins to activate, we're actually going to be using our hands. And like I said, just make sure to wash your hands before and after the processes. You don't want any kind of dirt or anything on it. Remember, we're going to be eating this today. And while this is activating, we could use our hands to mix and the batch here. So we're just lightly going to be putting it in. Now, I was hiding this surprise, but I guess now you are wondering, why is there so much flour? Well, because this ingredient, or not this ingredient, I'm sorry, this recipe in general will actually be giving you a total of 2 loaves of bread that you could use. Alright, so we just put it a bit of time in there for the water to be mixed with it. And what we're going to do, you want to just mix it really well in there so that all the yeast basically starts dissolving and starts activating. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be putting the yeast and the water inside here. And like I mentioned, depending on how hot it is, you might see that it might be a bit too hot, so you could let it cool down. But in this case, we're going to be mixing it in and out. And afterwards, or right now, is when the fun's going to start getting. Like I mentioned, if you have children, or if you have nieces, grandkids, or cousins, or just, you, your spouse, or your partner want to go ahead and do bread, this is the best option to do. As you could tell, we're forming the actual dough and we're putting it together. If by any chance it's a bit too dry, you can always add a bit more water. So that's what we're going to probably be doing in a bit. But right now, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and completely make the dough. Now you are going to feel sometimes like little bits and pieces that are hard. That's usually sometimes either the sugar or the flour itself that was mixed with the oil. So just go ahead and break those parts. And it can always be the yeast as well. So now what we're going to do, as you can see, I have a nice doughy consistency. We're going to be putting this on our counter. And you might be seeing that you have extra flour. Well, we're going to be putting this in the middle so that it really mixes. Okay, and as I mentioned, I'm probably going to be putting a bit more water because this is a bit kind of dry compared to what you want. So we're going to put just a tiny bit of water, maybe a 1/4 cup. And honestly, that might even be a bit too much. So you don't want to put extreme portions of water, just enough where it becomes doughy. So the half cup that we have, oh, see, there you go. The half cup that we have of water, flour, I'm sorry, that we saved on the side, that's actually for when we start mixing it, the dough. See, in this case, I put in, and it got a bit sticky, which is fine. You don't want it too dry, you don't want it too doughy or too wet, too sticky. You want it just a nice consistency. Okay. Now, if you've had a rough day and you're coming home and you're kind of want to de-stressing, this is perfect. You could just take that, and take that. You know, great way to de-stress. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're doughing or mixing the dough, and we want a good consistency. So I'm actually going to be folding in and out, and I'm going to be putting it together. The flour that we originally got, I'm going to be putting it on the floor, on the counter, and we're going to be mixing it. And of course, you always want to go ahead and tear it in and out apart. That way everything is completely covered. And as you can see, it's sticky, not too dry or too too dry or too sticky. We want it nice and doughy. So that's where that extra flour comes in, because we don't want it too dry, too sticky, just nice. There we go. Okay. And you're going to be seeing that it's coming out really great. Look at that. And you want to just mix it. Now, here's something interesting. As you're mixing it, you might actually encounter that the dough is becoming warmer, and that's because of the yeast. So apart from the actual friction that you're inducing with the movement, you're actually currently activating the yeast. So that's why you're going to feel that it's a bit warmer and a bit more, a bit warmer than you expected. There we go. So if you still think that you need a bit more flour or water, go ahead and add it. Just be cautious with how much you add, because you don't want to add too much that it becomes very rough or doughy, and then you might have a bit too much. And like I said, the surprise is that from this you're going to be having 2 loaves of bread, and we're going to be doing an experiment with one, and we're going to be showing the other one as well. So now that we have a really good dough, the actual dough, get ready. What we're going to do instead, or right now, we're actually going to cut this into 2 sections. Oops, I'm so sorry. Into 2 equal sections, and we're going to be placing one inside of an actual bread pan like this, and the other one we're going to be leaving it out. So we're going to go ahead and cut this one in half, and we want 2 equal parts. You could use anything to cut. In this case, I'm just using a wooden spatula. There we go. So we're going to put this guy in here, and we're just going to let him lay flat like this. And when we come back, we'll be viewing a different type of bread that's going to be coming up. And this part, we're going to be using a different technique. We're actually going to be using this for a different purpose, and I'll show you that in a bit. But for the meantime, we're going to be putting this right here just to let it go. I want to mention also, this is a great time where you can actually let your or put your stove to 350 degrees while you're waiting for your bread to I guess finish leveling up. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll be back. Okay, and I decided to actually go with 30 minutes instead of the 25 minutes. And here we go. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the result of what we accomplished. And as you could tell, it's very well lifted as well on both sides. Beautiful. Look at that. Wow. So I did change the this roll or the ball itself into this kind of dish. You could leave it in that one. You could move it over here. I just placed it in this one just specifically so that I could just, you know, get it over with. But once you have it in the bowl, you could actually transfer it over here and we'll have it. So we're doing two forms of experiments today. We're actually going to be conducting the regular loaf bread, and we're going to be doing another experiment here. So we're going to move this one to the side, and this one here we're actually going to be doing a little bit different. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to actually be cutting this one, and I'm going to make a shape. So I'm going to make it and cut it through the middle, but I'm not going to cut it all the way. I'm only going to be cutting it enough that it cuts it open. So I'm not touching the very bottom. I want to make that clear. I'm not touching the bottom. I'm just making indentions. So you have this version, and I'm making it more of like a pizza style. So you might be asking what exactly I'm doing with this other bread. And what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to be doing more of a flavored baked bread. You probably have seen these, you know, the garlic breads and things like that you could probably get at the store. So what I'm doing is something similar, and we're going to be baking it. And what I ended up doing is I heated up a bit of butter, and we're going to be drenching this really quick over it like a glaze. So I want to have butter all over this side on each one of them, just like this. And as you can see, I'm putting some butter, nice butter here and here. And of course you're gonna have leftover butter, which it's not that bad. Now if you're asking yourself how much butter should I use, that actually depends on your preference. I actually used what's considered maybe about a tablespoon amount of butter, but not over so much. I don't like my bread that buttery, but you can always have your bread if you want a bit more buttery. It's up to you. It's a personal preference, which, you know, that's the amazing part of baking, that it's whatever you want to do, and that's what you could do for it. So next up are the spices. The spices, ladies and gentlemen, are your best friends. And in this case, we're going to be doing a bit of rosemary. This rosemary we got from one of the plants outside. So we're just going to sprinkle a bit of rosemary on top. It doesn't have to be, you know, exactly on each and every one of them. Just enough where everybody gets some. We're going to put a bit of oregano. Just slightly sprinkle on it. We're going to put a bit of garlic powder. So I'm just slightly covering it. I'm going to add a little bit of ginger. You don't have to do this. I'm adding ginger just because I like that extra little flavor that ginger has. But with spices, ladies and gentlemen, you could do whatever you want. You want to add cinnamon to it? Go ahead. You want to add more sugar? Go ahead. You want to add pepper? You want to add jalapeno juice? Do whatever you want. I'm simply doing a demonstration of what you could do here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of ginger. There we go. And just a tiny bit of crushed pepper. And there we go. And as you can see, there it is. It looks like a mini pizza, which is perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be putting them in the oven, and we're going to be letting them in. Remember, at this point, while you were waiting for it to come out or being lifted, activating the yeast, you wanted to put your oven at 350 and let it heat up. So let's go ahead and put our breads inside. Okay, now we're going to be ready to put our breads in our oven. And remember, safety is number one in this case. Don't ever skip the safetiness. It's very important that you always take precaution with anything in the kitchen. So we're gonna open it, and oh my goodness, it's heated. Really nice. And we're gonna be putting both of them in. I know there are some people who state like, oh, it's one at a time, but there's more than enough space and more than enough heat to be able to place both of them in here. So we're gonna go ahead and drop both of them in. Just like that, right next to each other. And we'll close them and we'll be back right after this and see how they came out. Now, when they're in the oven, you could go ahead and put them for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on, let's say, for example, any kind of ingredient you add. Maybe you made it a bit more moist. That's where you want to let it just a little bit. But in this case, we're going to be putting it, let's go ahead and put 25 minutes. Excuse me, 25 minutes. And if it's still needs more time, then we'll leave it a bit. But we'll be 25 minutes, and I'll show you right now the final result of what we together baking actually. Okay, so 25 minutes have passed, and here is a grand reveal. Wow, can you smell that? The best part of baking has to be the smell. So let's go ahead and take out our first loaf, and look at that. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. What a beautiful color. It's not dark, it's not white, it's just a nice, good color. So let's put this one on the side. And let's see our experiment. How did we do? Wow. Should you look at that beauty? Isn't that beautiful? So whenever you're having a meal, maybe a nice soup or a sandwich, these are the things that you can actually use now. So the first one, of course, is a loaf of bread. We'll let it cool down, and what you'll do next is just kind of leave it out in the open while it cools down, and whenever you're ready, you can actually cut it up and have it ready for a slice of peanut butter and jelly, maybe peanut butter and salmon, or just a regular, sandwich. And this one right here, this one's in particular, I like making these versions because I like having it with soup or any kind of additional food that we're having. So we might have something that is having liquids, or maybe a type of cream or sauce, and this right here would work perfect with it. So let's take a closer look really quick. And there you go, the final result. I do hope that you enjoyed cooking as much as I did. I enjoy baking ever so much, and there's always room for improvement. There's always room for different experiments, change flavors, any additional thing that you would like to do. Like I mentioned, these are just the basic layouts for the breads. You can always mix and match. You can also have the same ingredients that are here within this bread, and trust me, it'll taste as delicious as ever as well. Greatly appreciate you all stopping by to view this video. I hope this video was helpful in any kind of way. There's going to be a mini series that's going to continue going on, as I mentioned. If you have any questions or concerns, go ahead and put them in the comment sections. And I do hope everyone's doing fine during this time. I send lots of loves and kisses, and I hope you all are doing well as well. And let's just see. We're going to cut really quick. Oh my goodness. So soft already. So soft. I don't even have to push it in that much. And as you could tell, ooh. Yes, it's hot. Oh, it's hot, but as you could tell, it's fluffy. There you go. We'll let it cool down and we'll eat it. You have a great one, everybody. Take care. Till next time.